Well, good evening, everybody. I would ask you all to please start moving toward your seats. Yes, my voice is scratchy and all of that. Let's hope it holds up for the night. I won't ask anybody else to use this microphone, so you don't have to be near my germs. But because it is 6:30, I'd ask you to find your seats so we can get our meeting started tonight. And as has been our tradition, we start each meeting after I call the meeting to order with the presentation of colors, either by the local Girl Scout troop or the local Scouts BSA troop. Tonight, we're very, very fortunate to have representatives of Girl Scout Troop 58502 under the leadership of Jennifer Archer. And our color guard members tonight will be Sophia Cole, Kyla O'Connor, Elizabeth Nesbitt, Bella Archer, Haley Corkum, Kaylee Eppel, and Sophia Gerber. And so now I will turn the floor over to our scouts so that they can present the colors, and I understand they will also be leading us in the Star Spangled Banner.
Color guard, honor your flag. Please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us in saying the Girl Scout promise. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, responsible for what I say and do, respect authorities, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and live a sister to every Girl Scout. We will now hear the Star Spangled Banner. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er
Thank you very much, Scouts. It's always a moving experience for me to watch the Scouts start our meetings each year. I'll mention to everybody here that our meeting is being live streamed tonight and recorded so that remote viewers can watch what happens tonight even if they can't make it. But it also makes it doubly important that when you speak, please use a microphone so that those who are listening in from outside the room can hear what we are doing tonight. And also, you know, your mother may be out there, so behave yourselves tonight, you know. I don't want to waste a huge amount of time with introductions, but I typically do introduce folks at the head table because every year we have new people in town, and it's certainly worthwhile doing that. From the Board of Selectmen, we have Christopher Nicolopoulos, Angela Brennan, Matthew Poulin, Mike Wayne, who's currently the vice chair, and Bruce Marshall, who is currently the chair. Town manager Dave Stack is up front here. Town clerk Madrula Nye over here on my right. Our finance director Jeff Ruggles, who answers all questions financial. Tanya Lindquist is here helping make sure I don't do anything stupid with the electronic stuff that they say I'm supposed to be in charge of. And we also have town council Eric Maher and his associate Brianna Matusko are here as well to keep me on the straight and narrow. Special thank yous tonight to Connor Parzik, who is manning the what in the old days we used to call the AV room. Who knows what it is now? But also, thank you, Connor. Also, supervisor of the checklist. You know, they're folks who have a very, you know, they work so hard keeping our checklist, you know, checking people in, updating records, you know, making sure that things run smoothly. They don't always get the credit they deserve, but certainly Jennifer McDaniel, Beth Titus, and Catherine S. definitely deserve, you know, a thank you tonight. And if you see them, please do so. We have other town committee heads who may speak at different times this evening. I'll put off introducing them till later. I do have several assistants helping me tonight with counting and crowd control or whatever. It doesn't look like there's going to be much need for that. We'll see how it goes. But Jim Hayden, Harry Judd, Jack Crisp, Eric Anderson, Tamar Roberts, and Judy Goodnow are all helping me. And I'm especially happy to have Tamar here. She's been she's back on her feet again, literally, after a long battle with leg issues, and we're fantastic to have you here. You know, Jim Hayden has always been my number two, helping me out. He acts as our school moderator here in town, and those of you who looked at the sample ballots realize he hasn't signed up for next year, so this will be his last year as school moderator. But he tells me he's going to stay around and help me out as long as he's in town. But special thank you to Jim for all of your help. At this point in time, we typically have a Citizen of the Year presentation, but I have not been approached by anybody from the men's. Oh, you are here tonight. Okay, good. I can't introduce who it is because it's not my friend Ope. So you'll have to introduce yourself, sir, and then let me I can give you this. Michael, let me turn it on for you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Greg Cordier. I'm the president of the Bow Men's Club. So come on down to the meeting, please. All you men out there, we need some help. Sales pitch. So this year's Citizen of the Year was chosen for his devotion to the history of Bow. He's been an active member of the Bow Heritage Commission since 2016. He was instrumental in establishing the Baker Heritage Room at the Baker Free Library. He helped photograph and inventory the Henry Baker book collection and set up and arrange an exhibit of Bow's historic farm equipment and tools at the library. He helped in the Bow Bog Meeting House shutter renovation project, which saved the taxpayers thousands of dollars. He led the effort to re-roof the historic Bow Center signage and is responsible for maintaining the Bow Heritage Commission website with its abundance of photos and historic information that we all enjoy. It gives me great pleasure to invite Jim Dimmick up to accept the 2023
As noted in the proposed moderator's rules, if we don't finish by 11 tonight, we plan to adjourn the meeting until a week from tonight. But I think it's probably the worst thing on earth to say is, oh, it looks like we'll be done early tonight. Who knows what's going to happen? So anyway, just the same spot, 7 o'clock, March 22nd is where we will collect again if we need to finish business or if we have any motions to reconsider. Our voting procedures will, for those of you who are old hands, have been here before. You've heard this before. For new folks, as you checked in, you received the voter cards and a wristband. Most of our votes I will do just by asking you to raise your voter cards, and then I will, visually assess the yays and the nays. And if we need a count, the assistant moderators will count the cards. If we have to have any ballot votes, there are none contemplated right now tonight. We'll have one ballot box on the stage and one out in the lobby on the first floor, manned by assistant moderators and supervisors. And we just ask you to kind of work your way through and get through the lines as quickly as possible. As soon as we're done voting, we can get back to business. The right to know law changed a couple of years ago, and it now requires the clerk to record who makes every motion and who seconds every motion. So I'd ask you, it's typical, second, make sure you let the clerk know or state your name so that we can get it in the records. That'll be great. If there are any amendments proposed for articles, I'd ask you if you can get them to me in advance. Then we can try to get them into the system so that we can display them on the screen for you, for everybody. As always been in the past, I ask, let's, be a shining example tonight of, our fellow citizens and youth, that there is a proper way to gather, there's a proper way to discuss issues, there's a proper way to disagree without being disagreeable. Let's, work together to take care of the town's business, enjoy ourselves, and be respectful and courteous while we're at it. It has been my practice in the last few years to ask the meeting to adopt the moderator's rules that are printed in the town report as your rules of the meeting. The moderator's rules appear right after the blue section of the town report at page 198. And at this point, I would love to have a motion to adopt those rules as the rules of the meeting tonight. I see Jack Crisp has raised his hand to make a motion. Is there a second? Okay. All right, thank you. And Jeffrey Knight is the second. Great. Does anybody want to discuss that motion? If not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, this is good practice. Please raise your voter cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed, please raise your cards. Okay, the yes votes clearly have it, so those rules are adopted. It's wonderful. I was starting to look for a new quote this year because some people are getting tired of me using the same quote over and over again, but as I looked at the one that I have used for a number of years, it struck me that it's particularly appropriate in these polarized times, and calls us to a point where we urges us all to stop and listen to one another and talk to one another. And it comes from Ben Franklin, and he compared those who are absolutely sure of their positions to a traveler in the fog, and he said, like a man traveling in foggy weather, those at some distance before him on the road he sees wrapped up in fog, as well as those behind him, and also the people in the fields on either side. But near him all appears clear, though in truth he's as much in the fog as any of them. So with that thought, and the spirit of listening to all of us, hoping we're not all in the fog, but maybe we can all find clear vision together, I will read the official notice of our meeting. To the inhabitants of the town of Bow and the county of Merrimack, the state, qualified to vote in town affairs, you are hereby notified to meet at the Bow Community Building on Tuesday, March 14, 2023, to act upon Article 1 by official ballot. The polls shall be open for balloting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You're further notified to meet at Low High School Auditorium on Wednesday, March 15, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. to discuss, amend, and act upon Articles 2 through 14, the proposed fiscal 23-24 municipal budget, and all other matters to come before the meeting. And this is when I would typically announce the results of the voting yesterday, but we had some snow. And, those of you who've been around will remember back in 2017 and 18, we had blizzards in March that caused a lot of turmoil in the state and resulted in an amendment to the state statute that allows towns on a town-by-town basis to postpone the voting day if it appears that the conditions would be too dangerous for the citizens or poll workers to go out. And the statute, unfortunately, gives the moderator sole authority to make that decision. So, I was out there, on a limb. But luckily, I had a great consultation, great support from all of the town officials. We discussed it and decided that it was best for all to postpone yesterday's voting to March 28. So tonight, I have no results to postpone, but I think I can also say everybody was happy to be able to stay home and not have to figure out how to try to get to the community building to vote yesterday. And I'm sure the candidates in the contested offices were thrilled that they didn't have to stand outside with sound signs all day long in the snow. And with that, I think that tees us up to address the article. Oh, okay, that's right. I can't, it's. In football, hey, they do the audibles. That happens here. No matter how much I plan, you get the audibles. And I'm being reminded that Selectman Marshall would like to make an announcement, a presentation at this point.
Actually, just a couple things.
Okay.
First off is, it is on? All right. So I don't know how many of you were here last year when we were honoring our Selectman, Colleen Hunter, when she retired from the position. I made a comment about Colleen will be directing things for us going future in the next year. And sure enough, I got a call from Colleen today, who regretfully couldn't be here tonight. I wanted to make sure that I thank Tim Sweeney and the Highway Department for the awesome job and the small snowstorm we had yesterday into this morning. So. On top of that, I want to make sure I thank Madruller and his staff, because to say they had an unexpected rush at the town office on Monday, I think is minimal. But what a fine staff to be able to address everybody that wanted to go and do some additional absentee balloting on Monday. Madruller and your staff, thank you very much. You would help make this process go along so smoothly. Thank you. I also want to thank our moderator especially for making, I thought was an extremely reasonable and smart call yesterday at an earlier hour, on Monday rather, to postpone the election. Peter, you do so much for us, and thank you for taking care of that to make sure as many voters as possible can get out and get to the polls. So thank you very much. And lastly, I wanted to just acknowledge someone here in the audience tonight who I first met, not officially but informally, I want to say about 50 years ago when I used to play Bow Youth football for Hooksett, because we used to play a Bow's football program back there. And he's been a fixture in this town for at least 50 years, I'm sure much more than that. I think he actually moved into town back when they invented the telephone, but he's always been there for our team, the fire department. He's our emergency safety coordinator and handles emergency management for the town. He got us through a lot of the COVID issues in fine fashion and gets us through even the most recent storm. And the annual report this year was dedicated to Leland Kimball, and I just want to acknowledge him and thank him for all his service to the town. Thank you, Peter.
Oh, thank you. Now?
No.
Okay. I've been given the green light. We can move on. As per our rules, we move through the warrant, the articles in order as they appear in the warrant. And because of my voice issues tonight, I'm going to continue my tradition of not reading each article, but simply referring to it as it's printed in the warrant. But they are going to be displayed up on the screen behind us. So the first article is Article 2, relative to the operating budget. And to get things started, do we have a motion to adopt Article 2? Okay, Jeff, right? And do we have a second? Second, great. So we have a motion and a second. And my crib sheet tells me that Selectman Nicolopoulos, I always leave one syllable out, but I think I got them all that time, will introduce this to us.
I take full responsibility for that last name, Peter. So,
Yeah. I'm sorry.
so I've gotten the opportunity to present our operating budget. This budget is the product of tireless work from it started with our department heads, our town manager, David Stack, my fellow select board members who went through each and every line of the budget, and then ultimately the budget committee. And I'm honored for, I believe, the fourth year in a row to bring you a completely unanimous town budget. It's a $12,058,663 budget, which, given the inflationary times we're in, is virtually flat. It is a commitment of our citizens and our town employees to be economical in these difficult times. I think despite that, we are doing appropriate planning for our CIP, for our capital needs, and for our staffing needs, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 2? And I might not have mentioned it, but if you plan to speak, I'd ask you to please use one of the two speakers in the middle of the auditorium on either side, or the microphones, I should say, and I typically recognize people in an alternating fashion. But when there's nobody at the mic ready to speak and nobody looking like they're rushing to the mic to speak, I'm smart enough to say maybe it's time to take a vote. I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, if there's not, I'm more than happy to put the matter to a vote at this point in time. All those in favor of Article 2 as is printed in the warrant, please raise your voter cards. Thank you very much. All those opposed? Okay, the yes votes have it. The article passes. Okay. Next, Article 3, relative to payments to capital reserve funds. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 3? I do, and I have a motion and second to adopt Article 3. And Selectman Wayne will be introducing this to us.
Thank you, Peter. Wow. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $925,000 in authorized payment in existing capital reserve funds and expendable trust funds in the following amounts. Those amounts are listed on page 183 of the town report, if you wish to look at them, for the purpose which such funds were established. I'd like to thank the CIP committee for doing an exceptional job once again this year in leveling the funding of the capital reserves to keep the budget in line.
Okay, does anyone wish to be heard on Article 3 relative to capital reserve funds? I am not seeing anybody at either microphone or moving to a microphone. If nobody wishes to speak on Article 3, I'm happy to put it to a vote at this time. All those in favor of Article 3 as printed, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed? Okay, the yes cards clearly have it, and the article passes. Next article in the warrant is Article 4, relative to Page Road Bridge replacement. And do I have a motion to adopt Article 4? I do, and a second. So we have a motion and second for Article 4, and Selectman Marshall will be introducing this to us.
This is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,275,000 for the reconstruction of the Page Road Bridge, to authorize the receipt of a state grant in the amount of $1,153,317, and the withdrawal of $121,683 from the Bridge and Highway Construction Capital Reserve Fund for this purpose. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation pursuant to RSA 32:7, Roman numeral 6, which will not lapse until the earlier of the project completion or December 31st, 2028. This was recommended unanimously by the Select Board and the Budget Committee. Those numbers break down because 90% of the cost comes from the State of New Hampshire Bridge Age Program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to speak on Article 4 tonight? Such a friendly crew tonight. My goodness. I was talking to Brianna before the meeting. This is her first town meeting. I said, well, try not to have too many fireworks for you, but I hope we don't bore her. I don't want, no. Let's bore her. Let's bore her, please. Forget I said that. If nobody wishes to speak on Article 4, we'll put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of Article 4, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed, raise your cards. Okay, the yes votes have it, so Article 4 passes. And considering that bridge is right in front of my house, I thank you too. Next article on the warrant is Article 5. It's relative to annual road paving. Do we have a motion to adopt Article 5 in a second? We do. Okay, thank you very much. And this article will be introduced to us by Selectman Poulin.
Bruce stole my thunder. I wanted to rave about DPW, but you already did that. So the Bow DPW strives to provide the best service possible to all residents in a timely and cost-effective manner. This season's road repair and paving projects include multiple drainage replacement projects and the paving of approximately 5.4 miles of roadway. The town's annual paving plan is on a 20-year rotational schedule. In order to follow the plan, it will cost $570,000 to pave 5 miles of road. This is based on today's per ton price for asphalt. Tax impact is 44 cents per thousand of property value.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to be heard on this article? I see some folks standing. Are you folks just arriving? Or, yeah, okay, they don't want to speak. Does anyone wish to speak on Article 5? I'm not seeing anybody, so if not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of Article 5, please raise your voter cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed, please raise your cards. The ayes have it, so that passes by card vote. Next article is Article 6, relative to municipal building Phase 2 renovations. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 6 as appears in the warrant? Yes, in a second. Okay, we have a motion and second to adopt Article 6. And Selectwoman Brennan will be introducing this article to us.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Article 6 is for municipal building Phase 2 renovations to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $90,000 for Phase 2 renovations at the municipal building, and to authorize the withdrawal of $90,000 from the Municipal Buildings and Grounds Capital Reserve Fund for this purpose. This is unanimously recommended by the Selectmen and Budget Committee. There is no tax impact for this.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 6? Wonderful. Well, I'm not seeing anybody moving to the microphones or standing at the microphones, so I will be happy to put Article 6 to the vote. All those in favor of Article 6, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All those opposed, raise your cards. Okay, the yes votes have it. The article passes. Next article, we have Article 7 relative to police cruiser purchases. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 7 as it appears in the warrant? I do. And a second? Yes, I have a motion and a second. And it looks like we have a double header here. Selectwoman Brennan gets to introduce this one to us as well.
Thank you. Article 7 is for a police cruiser purchase, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $59,000 to purchase a police cruiser for the police department and to authorize the withdrawal of $59,000 from the Police Equipment Capital Reserve Fund for this purpose. This is also unanimously recommended by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. There is zero tax impact.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 7? I'm not seeing anybody, and so I'd be more than happy to put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of Article 7 as it appears, please raise your cards. Thank you. All those opposed, raise your cards. Okay, the yes votes have it, and the article passes. Article 8 deals with CPR machines and defibrillators. Yeah, that's a tricky word they're putting there, just to trip up moderators who aren't paying attention. Anyway, do I have a motion to adopt Article 8? Yes, and a second? Thank you very much. And Selectman Wayne is going to introduce this article to us.
See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $57,400 for the purpose of CPR machines and defibrillators for the fire department, and to authorize the withdrawal of $57,400 from the fire department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund for this purpose. This was unanimously recommended by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee, and this article has no tax impact.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 8? Not seeing anybody, and so we'll keep on a roll here. All those in favor of Article 8 as printed, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed, raise your cards. Excuse me. The yes votes have it. The article passes. The next article is Article 9, relative to community building options. And do I have a motion to adopt Article 9 as printed in the warrant? And a second. I do have a motion and second. Thank you very much. And Selectman Poulin will be introducing this article to us.
Thanks, Peter. So the Bow Community Center Committee was formed in September of 2022. Their goals are to engage the community with goals of creating and gathering a place for residents and visitors, work with town organizations and residents to establish wants and needs list, maximize utilization of existing town spaces in the area of the current building, identify resources to support the implementation of the plan, present a proposal or proposals to the Board of Selectmen. These funds will be used to support the community's efforts. There is a 3-cent tax impact.
Thank you very much. Does anyone wish to be heard on this article, Article 9? It appears as if we have a speaker. Okay. Please remember to give your name and address so that we can get it in the records for the meeting. Thank you.
This is my warm-up for tomorrow, I think. Anyway, hi, Lisa Cohen, 104 Brown Hill Road. Just curious, it says $35,000. Is there already a firm in place? Did you go out to bid? Is there a design build involved? Anything like that?
That's what these funds are for. No, nothing has been done at all.
So how do you know it's going to cost $35,000?
It's an estimate. We're trying to stay below it.
Okay, so you're putting forth something that we don't know how much it's really going to cost for something that could be done design build in the future?
We're just trying to get the ball rolling. We were not going to exceed $35,000.
Excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
We have a committee that's been working on this, and the committee came back to us, which included former Selectwoman Colleen Hunter, and they came to the board with estimates that they had, informal estimates they received, requesting $35,000 in order to take the next step. So they based it a little bit on talking to firms about what we were looking at, and they also based it on some past preliminary conceptual plans that the town had experienced. And so that's where it wasn't just a number pulled out of the air. The committee recommended that number to us, and we accepted it.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else wish to be heard? Okay, looks like we have a gentleman at that microphone again. Remember, provide your name and address. Oops.
Not on.
Okay, there we go. Is it on now?
My name is Donald Lowe. I live at 3 South Bowden Barton Road. And so I'm just trying to understand why we're rehashing this community center yet again. I mean, I thought when we bought the, what's the name of the place across from the school?
The Bo Rex.
The Bo Rex Center, okay.
Yep.
So that,
Youth center.
that alleviated the burden on the community center. That was my understanding. And that was presented at the time as kind of a cure-all, I think. So I'm trying to understand what we intend to do with the community center that we can't do now.
Well, Don, since pickleball, since pickleball's taken off, there are a lot of organizations that we can accommodate at the Bow Youth Center that are looking for space to do these things. We have some other visions that we'd like to. We've already met with some of the organizations in town. Nothing's set in stone, but I mean, we're only using 1/3 of that building right now. And it's a great space that we can do something with. So we're just looking at our options moving forward. Nothing has been decided. We're just trying to move forward with it.
And so why are we only using 1/3 of the building?
Well, the fire department, the other fire department side's all closed. Asbestos, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we agreed to not use the old fire department side of that building because of the safety issues.
There are safety issues with that building, so it prevents us from utilizing the entirety of that space. So we utilize what we can in there, but we're certainly not maximizing our opportunities of that particular part of town and that particular land. This will give us options to at least explore how we can best use that space for now and going into the future.
Okay, well, I'll say one last thing and then I'll step down. My concern is you got a $12.9 million bond that the school wants tomorrow night. And that's going to be a 20-year bond that's going to increase that taxes. So if you do this proposal, like, you're going to be coming back to us for a multi-million-dollar proposal for a new community building within the next 20 years.
Well, part of the consideration to look at this is we have a community building, like we say, we can only use 1/3 of it because it's just not suitable and it's for safety reasons in its current configuration. On top of that, the building committee has been looking at all our buildings. The community building is going to need some significant repairs if we continue to use it, and those significant numbers would likely start to be incurred 5 years from now, just as a conservative estimate. Also in CIP, we continue to put money away through CIP to help take care of some of that future anticipated maintenance and repair costs to community building. But speaking for myself, I think it would be irresponsible for us as a town not to look at what the options are. Because if you're going to have to spend significant sums to maintain the building or close it completely, whichever, and clean the area up, you might as well also at least have an idea of what it would cost to give us a new building, just to make sure we're making smart decisions as we know they're coming with respect to the work from the building committee.
Thank you.
If this will turn on, I'd like to just add one thing. I'm waiting for the microphone to be turned on. No, I'm close enough. It's not turned on. I think I'd like to add just one. Thank you, Bruce. I wonder how long I would have spoken to a dead mic. I think it's important to understand that in the last 7 budgets, the town select board has presented at this meeting, in conjunction with the budget committee, there has not been any bonding. The foundation of that, and the last bond was when we did the police and fire station. The foundation of that is adequate planning using the CIP process. And part of that CIP process requires us to know what the future looks like, what a project for a community building might look like, whether in the current formation or in a different. Spending $35,000 to get feedback and potential outlines of what that might look like will allow us to appropriately plan in coming budget years, absent a need for bonding. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have a couple people, then somebody at this micro, I'll recognize you next. Remember, name and address, please.
So, Ryan Berg, 112 Knox Road. I applaud this effort, except I work in this industry, and $35,000 is going to get you a drawing on the back of a napkin. If you're going to do this right, do it right. Spend a little bit more money and actually plan what you're thinking. Get the input from the community. What do they want? If you do it at these earlier stages, because $35,000, all that's going to get you is someone walking through that building saying, yep, you've got asbestos, this needs to be condemned, you're only going to be locked into this one part of the building for usage. That's all you're going to get. You're not going to look at forward thinking to think about what's next. So I don't think it's enough.
And I appreciate that. We do have a separate committee of people in town that have been working on looking at this property for us. They're the ones that came to us and requested the funds. There has, as a lot of you know, in the past, they've looked at this property a few different times. And so based on their, speaking with people in the industry, I just want to clarify, you said it's not for the existing building. It's for a conceptual plan of what could be on that property other than the existing building. Because our building committee already knows the existing building and what it's going to take. Like, we got some big expenses coming up. The heat and furnace in there is a big issue and a big expense. So the $35,000 wouldn't be to look at the existing building as much as it would be look at a conceptual plan for what could take place on that property.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification, because I thought that this is a conceptual of trying to utilize what's there and build onto it instead of tear that thing down and do it right. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And we have a voter at this microphone. I recognize you.
David Farr, Heidi Lane. I have a question and a comment. So the question is, I just recently learned that we have a Sustainable Energy Committee that works with the Select Board. Will they be involved in this process at all?
I believe there is somebody on our committee from that other committee.
We specifically brought that up. I was at a recent meeting and brought that up to the Energy Committee meeting and requested of the chair that, hey, make sure you look at that as we go forward with the community building, because that would be the perfect time to try to incorporate something like that into the design to help reduce the overall cost.
Great, and if people haven't heard of that committee, they're doing some really cool work. I just learned about it. I guess my only comment was for people who have to vote in the room. I know we heard a couple negative comments. I just see a ton of stuff going down at that community center. It's the only time I ever go in there is to vote and to buy the Men's Club's lobster. It's just a dirty building. It's not great, but people still go and use it because it is a nice central place to gather. And if we've learned anything from our cell phone tower escapades, this town loves information, and it sounds like this is a small amount of money to give us some information so that we can make informed decisions. So I hope everybody votes for it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Do you wish to speak? Okay, absolutely.
Yes, Ray Johnson, 110 Knox Road. What nobody has brought up is the fact that if they build a new building, the taxpayers aren't only going to have to pay for that new building, but they're going to have to pay a large amount to tear down the old building.
Well, actually, let me clarify.
I would like to know if anybody has looked into what it would cost to remove the asbestos from that building and make it safe. And if they haven't, why haven't they?
We do have a company that's offered to tear it down at no cost. They want the steel.
Oh, so you're planning on tearing it down already before the vote?
If we go to that route, we've already looked into some of those things, and yes, there would be no cost to tear it down.
Do you know what the cost to remove the asbestos would be?
I don't. I'd have to defer to our buildings and maintenance guy to see if we've gone that far, but
now,
go ahead.
What are these so-called expensive repairs that it will need? It got a brand new roof, I believe, about 10, maybe 12 years ago. It was considered structurally sound at that time. And I don't think anything's rotted the inside steel beams away.
Thank you. There are actually some life-saving or life safety concerns with that building that are greater than is obvious to people that are, playing pickleball or something inside. So that is part of the concerns with that building. They are life safety.
Could you give us an example?
Chris Andrews would be able to provide us with great examples.
So Chris Andrews, the town's building and facilities manager.
Okay. Just speak a little closer to the mic. I think it'll work, Chris.
Now, can we hear me?
No. Get right up on the mic. There you go.
Hello?
There you go.
Getting better.
Chris Andrews, the town's building and facilities manager. 2025 is when the town will be facing some life safety compliance expenditures on the building. We've also identified other items such as the asbestos you mentioned, the boiler, siding, insulation, and a host of other issues that if we are going to keep using this building, we need to start putting money away. About 2 years ago, the Building Advisory Committee had made a recommendation to the Town Select Board, and I believe the CIP Committee weighed in as well, that we didn't want to move forward with spending a ton of amount of money on new items for the building until we know what it is we want to do with the building. It just didn't make sense to put money after, good money after a bad building that was beyond its years of use. The Community Center Committee, I don't see anybody here in the audience from the committee. What the $35,000 does is it goes back in time and it considers all the notes in the previous committee input that I think 2013 is when you folks started seeing these issues come up. We have a report that takes the current facility and transforming it into a new building, essentially updating it. Some of the things that they looked at in that report are no longer needed because of the Bow Rec Center. But in any case, that report, which is called the SMP report, that's what we refer to it as, that never had a cost estimate to it. So what the $35,000 does is this is not a design for a new building. It's for the consultant to go through the old reports, to go through some of the renovation plans, to go through the compliance plan that we have, and to make recommendations on, to answer 3 questions. What would it cost in today's dollars to renovate the building to bring it up to current life safety code, remove the asbestos, replace the boiler, replace the siding, et cetera? What is the cost? And mind you, if we do all that stuff, it does not, we do not gain any added benefit to the building itself. It's not renovating the fireside. It's still using the gym as it is right now with the 2 bathrooms. What does that cost? The other question too is to take the SMP report, and if we were to do that to the building, what would that cost? Then the third question is, what would it cost to build a brand new building and demo the current building? So we're not getting a new building design. We're getting those 3 questions answered. And the committee, one of the reasons why the $35,000 may seem low is the committee is doing a tremendous amount of work on their own with help from the town. We have all the information. We just need somebody that knows the business, that has the expertise to go through and make those recommendations, not recommendations, but cost estimates for us. We do have some cost estimates for, such as the asbestos, but those are 2015, 2016 dollars at this point. So we need to update all that. I hope that answers some of your questions and hesitation.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on Article 9? If not, I'd be happy to put Article 9 to a vote. All those in favor of Article 9 as it appears in the warrant, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And put them down. All those opposed, please your cards. Okay, the yes votes clearly have it, so the article passes. Next article on the warrant is Article 10, relative to return state bridge aid to bridge and highway capital reserve funds. Do I have a motion to adopt Article 10? I do, and a second. Great. And Selectman Nikolopoulos will be introducing this one to us.
Thanks, Peter. A number of years ago, the town of Bow had a bridge that was red listed and then closed. It was closed because it started to fail. That bridge had been listed on the bridge aid list for 2022. Because the bridge failed, we were able to repair the bridge at the time and wait for our bridge aid money to come in. That money came in, $640,117. Back when we paid for the bridge out of our CIP back in 17, our goal and plan was to put that money back in the Bridge and Highway Fund so that we had money for the next project. This article does just that. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone wish to speak on Article 10? I don't see anybody. Okay. If no one wishes to speak on Article 10, please, if you're in favor of the article, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And if you're opposed to Article 10, please raise your cards. Okay, the yes votes have it. The article passes. Okay. Article 11 is the first of 3 articles that we have by petition tonight. And do I have a motion to adopt Article 10? I do. Harold Judd. And do I have a second to article? Yes, Elena Colby. So we have a motion and a second to adopt Article 11, and as is typical with petitioned articles, I invite one of the petitioners or representative of the petitioners to introduce the articles, and then we proceed with our discussion like we do with every other article. So I've been told that Harold Judd will present on behalf of the petitioners on this article, and I'll recognize him at this time.
Thank you. Harry Judd, 25 Stack Drive. Point of order. Peter, could you add to your list in the future, since you know who moves and seconds the motions as you go through, if you would announce who that is? I know you're recording it, but you know we don't. So just if you would, a courtesy to the room. So
Sure.
Thank you. I rise to support the petition article. As you can see, it's broadcast here. The purpose of the article is to have the Board of Selectmen meetings that are currently live streamed and recorded, also have them posted, so those folks who are not available to either attend or to view it on a Tuesday night at the designated hours would have the opportunity to review. And we've been trying in this town for over 20 years to provide information to the town. It's a constant request of people. We want to be better informed. We want to know what's going on. But it's not possible to always attend the meetings. So this is a way to make this information available. Currently, there are private citizens who have been recording and posting these meetings, and I appreciate their effort to do this. But I'll say again, the meetings are recorded, they are posted. One of, perhaps the only benefit that came out of the pandemic, we all learned how to use Zoom and Teams and other platforms to conduct meetings, to have information shared with us. And it's very commonplace. Back when I was on the board, we looked into being able to record and even just what's now called live stream, and at that time it was public TV, and it was going to be expensive, and we were going to have equipment brought in. And while we did have at that time a selectman on the board who thought it'd be great if, to see himself on television, the board said, we're not going to spend the money. And frankly, we didn't get requests from the public. So I'll also say that I represent state governments across the country, and they routinely record their meetings. They routinely post them, both their meetings and their public hearings. And this is nothing new. I note that the New Hampshire legislature posts both live streams and posts their meetings and their sessions. And I think it would be appropriate for us to do this in the town. I think it's appropriate for this body, the citizens, it's our information, make it known to the board that we would like them to post the recordings that they have of their meetings shortly after the meetings occur. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'd be happy to entertain discussion or debate on this motion at this time. I'll recognize the voter at the microphone over there.
Thanks, Peter. Matt Poulin, 20 Hampshire Hills Drive. So I've been a selectman for 5 years. And one of the things that we've been is very fiscally responsible with your budget. This year, as you heard, we produced a level budget. And I'm all for petition warrant articles, but not first looking at the costs. If you pass this tonight, we have no idea what the audiovisual costs are. We have no idea what the staffing costs are to the town. Like the community center, we created a committee. Like the safety center, we created a committee. And like the charter for the town of Bow, we created a committee for it so that we can take a look at some of these aspects of if this passes. How much is it going to cost us? Right now, we have no idea. And Harry, you just mentioned that you didn't do it because of the cost associated with videoing in the past. So there is a cost to passing this, and if anybody knows what it is, I would love to know before we vote on it. So having said that, I propose a friendly amendment to it, and that is to see if the town will vote to direct the Bow Select Board to create a committee to study the personal and equipment requirements together with corresponding costs to video record public meetings of the Board of Selectmen, the Zoning Board, and the Planning Board for electronic storage in a manner that permits public viewing in appropriate period of time. If Article 11 passes, Article 12 will be, or this amendment passes, Article 12 will be deemed null and void. So that's a motion, Peter.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend, and I was given the courtesy of being provided with a copy of the proposed amendment, so yeah, you can pull it up at this point in time. But
I did edit one part on the end, sorry, Peter.
Yep, that's okay. Is there a second to the motion to amend? Just again, those who are, okay, yep. Jeff Knight seconded the motion. So we, for those, following, if we have a motion to amend during discussion of an article, we will deal with the discussion of the motion to amend. If the amendment passes, then we vote on the motion as amended. If the amendment fails, we go back and we discuss the original motion again. So in this, from this point on, at this point now, we will be entertaining discussion on the proposed motion to amend. So does anyone wish to speak on the motion to amend? Yes, sir, I'll recognize this voter.
Philippe Miranda, 2 Abbey Road. I really think it's strange that Matt is saying that we don't know the costs, because we have been broadcasting. So we have been doing the recording of the meetings now. So we know what the cost is. So I don't know where the question of the cost is coming from.
But this motion asks the town to do it. So now we're responsible. Volunteers have been doing it, and that's been great. I'm all for it. I just like to know what the cost is. Right now, this doesn't address the cost. Yes, volunteers are videoing, recording the live streams, and posting it online.
Matt,
No.
Instead of getting a debate going back and forth, maybe we can
Sorry,
kind of
Peter.
go through his questions
My
and then
apologies.
answers. That's all right.
No, it's not the volunteers that are doing it. The meeting is being broadcast, is being Zoomed now, is being streamed online. The only thing that is being done by volunteers, or whatever you want to call it, is the recording and posting it. That is not really where the cost is. If you are already broadcasting the meeting, you just need to press record when you are broadcasting it. It will get recorded at that time, and you just post it on YouTube, and it's free. I don't see a big
No applause,
thing there,
please.
no?
Please. We
I
don't
think
like to
that
have
this
applause or
amendment is-
cheering, I think, during the meeting. I don't like to discourage comments and debates. Thank you very much. But thank you very much. There's somebody waiting on, oh, yes, Connor? What?
Connor Parzik, 60 Peasley, the IT AV guy for this room, this district. I just built one of these video systems for this room right here. Rough estimate off the top of my head. Video cameras, this is professional video we're talking about. The computers and hardware and wiring to do it. For these 2 cameras in this room, as well as the computers, it cost $10,000 at least. Just rough estimate off the top of my head. That's not from an integrator. That's from me doing this work for this school. Just thought I'd let you guys know. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Brian Westover, 63 Robinson Road. This question is for Town Council. Whether this vote passes as amended or not, would the Board of Selectmen be obligated to adopt this as part of their bylaws, or is this, what's the term, a non-binding vote?
Am I authorized to answer that question? Select Board?
Yes.
Okay. I believe that it would be. There's a case from several decades ago, but I do believe it's still binding, called Moulton v. Beals, which talks about the binding effect of the legislative body's vote. So I do believe that it would be binding because it relates to the management of the Board of Selectmen's affairs under RSA 3139.
Thank you.
Okay, and voter at this microphone.
Lisa Cohen, 104 Brown Hill. Whether it's for the amendment or for the article, the amendment, to my point of view, and I know Mr. Poulin will probably take issue with this, is just another way of burying something that we've asked for. It's already being recorded, and therefore it just needs to be posted. So the amendment, I appreciate that you want to include everything and then push Article 12, but all you're doing is coming up with another committee to do another study, which pushes this off another year. So I say vote no on the amendment and let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have a voter at this microphone? Yes.
Hi, my name is Shannon Bader. I live at 25 Heidi Lane. I just want to let everybody know that my brother lives in Texas. I don't know why either, but I was there for Thanksgiving. And one of my neighbors was watching the live stream of the town meeting, or sorry, of the select board meeting, and let us know that there was a motion at the select board meeting that would directly impact our property. We didn't know. We didn't know it was on the agenda that day, but because it was recorded, we were able to look through and watch the meeting and then write a letter to the town letting them know our thoughts about this motion. Without the live stream that our neighbor was watching, without the ability to then watch the recording, we would have been uninformed about something that was really close to our hearts. So this is not just something that is sort of, I don't know, nebulous. This is something that could happen to all of us. I don't get a chance to always go to the select board meeting. I actually go quite a bit, but I don't get to go all the time. And I don't think we do have a lot of good information in our town. But there are a lot of people watching. And if someone is able to say to their neighbor, hey, you should know about this topic, or you should know about this topic, then we're better about telling everyone in our town about what's going on. I think we have a really good network of people who know people, but there has to be at least somebody watching. This is a way to make sure that when you're sitting next to someone at pickleball, or you're sitting next to someone at baseball, they can say, hey, did you hear that at town meeting? You should go watch it. And then you can. Right now, it's lost. So for us, this matters. Otherwise, I would have been in Texas and not known anything. So for that reason alone, please just vote yes for this. We both support it in our household.
Thank you for your comments. And is there a voter at this microphone wish to speak?
Yeah, Harry Judd,
Typically,
25
I
Stack
like
Drive.
to let everybody speak once before we have repeat
Peter, I'm
speakers.
speaking to the amendment.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I'm urging people to vote no on the amendment. The Board of Selectmen is already recording these meetings. In fact, at the candidates' night, the chairman said he has access to those recordings, and anybody who wants to come in and watch them with him, he could. Well, I'm saying if I can go into his office and watch it, I ought to be able to pull it up on YouTube. I'll also say that my company runs very large solicitations for the largest electric utilities in this country. We run bidders conferences. We have recordings of them. We post them online. It does not cost $10,000 to have the equipment. It's done, heck, you can do it with your cell phone. And this is, in my view, it's just an attempt to kick the can down the road. I urge people to vote no. It's not going to cost money more than what is already being done. It's already being recorded. It's being kept by the Board of Selectmen. I say share it with the people because we are the citizens of this town. Thank you.
And I'll recognize the voter at this microphone if there is one. Yep.
David Farr, Heidi Lane. I guess it pains me a little bit to agree with Matt because we like to disagree about a lot of things, but I actually think the original article is not worded very well, and I think as a town, if you read that, I think it puts us in a really awkward position. If we think of our select board as an extension of our town and what they do, I just feel like it's worded really poorly. We have no information, right? We don't know anything about what it's going to cost. I actually don't think it's going to impact the select board at all. It's going to be people like Tanya Lindquist who have to figure all this stuff out, and where it's going to be posted, how it's going to be posted, what are the impacts. I work for a huge company, and these little changes, people are saying like, oh, it's being recorded. I've seen the people with the cell phone recording it. That's not what the town of Bow is going to be able to do. I do think Article 11 is a good idea. I would like to hear from the selectmen, standing or sitting. Are you guys committed to doing this, though, or is this kicking the can down the road?
That's a great question. We're going to do whatever passes tonight. Correct. If you tell us to get a budget for you, we will get a budget for you. If you tell us to record meetings and post them online, we will do that. That's just how it works.
But I want to clarify, if this passes, this Article 11, which is to form a committee, it is not to get a budget, it is not to do it. The amendment to Article 11. Are you committed to coming up with a solution to record meetings and get them to us? Because this just says form a committee and figure it out. Are you committed to take the next steps to make it action?
We will do exactly what the amendment says. Form a committee to answer those questions.
Well, then I guess I have to vote for the poorly written article.
All right. This microphone, yes.
Hi, Bruce Marshall, 12 Sharon Drive. I support the amendment for a few reasons. One, when this came up, 3 years ago when I first became a selectman, I wanted to do contact the local television in Concord to get them done that way. It got voted down because it always had in the past with prior select boards. And so then when we started live streaming, I supported that. When we talked about recording, the board got advice from council and explained to us pros and cons, liability-wise and legal reasons once you start recording and posting them. So we've been live streaming. As I've always said, I'd love everybody to show up at the meeting because you get much more information when you're there. You watch it a month later, the action's been done. But there is a cost because right now we have one giant TV on wheels that gets rolled from the select board conference room down to the planning board. The two amendments, the two articles just talk about planning and select board. I think if you're going to do those two, you should do the zoning board. But right now we struggle with staff to get the minutes of the planning board drawn up and other boards and committees drawn up. And we live stream. When I referenced at the Meet the Candidate night, I was just misrepresented here a minute ago. What I said was when Harry's wife raised some questions with me, I was happy to sit down with her and go over. I don't have those recordings. Those are from what people have posted on YouTube. So if we're going to record them, we're going to need to store them and have them accessible. We have difficulty, the town hasn't even got up to speed on getting our other documents in electronic format so we can record and access them. And this is going to cost money. And if we're going to do it, we should have a permanent setup in the planning board and zoning board conference room, a permanent setup of equipment in the select board so that they're sit there ready to use. And we're going to need somebody, some staff that I don't know where we're going to come from. We're going to have to hire somebody to come in and manage all this stuff and incorporate it into what I hope we get over the next year is some updated software so that if someone wants to look at something, you're not just looking at a video, You're looking at all the documents and exhibits that were presented at that select board meeting, planning board meeting, or zoning board meeting. So I think, these same people supporting this in the past couple of years with issues, it said, oh, we need to study it and look at it. And I think it's fiscally irresponsible for us not to do that, because this isn't the same standard of, someone recording a meeting and posting it on YouTube. If we're going to do it as a town, it now becomes official document. And we need to do it right and record it right. And in speaking with our town manager and the staff, we're not set up for that. So there is going to be a price tag. I think it's a price tag worth spending, but I'd like to know ahead of time, so I think I support the article. Thank you.
All right, do we have voters? Yes, we have a voter at this microphone.
Shea Senate, 574 Page Road. Just as a point for costs, my church, we record and live stream all of our things, and we have a budget, an absolute fraction of what our town budget is. It doesn't cost that much to do it. Yes, we got some PTZ Zoom tilt cameras, and there's an initial sort of capital expense for that. But once it's up and running, if you're recording it, you can post it really easily. It hasn't bankrupted our church. We do it every Sunday. More people watch online now too, which is great. So it's just more information out there. So it just doesn't seem to be that cost is going to be this sort of ever-expanding breakneck thing. You could get a Google Drive with a terabyte of, memory that you can have on there. So I don't think it's going to be overly expensive. So I think we should just record our meetings so we can go back and watch them when we want to watch them.
Thank you. And a voter at this microphone.
Yes, Susan Moore, 11 Crockett Drive in Bow. I don't think this amendment is necessary at all. I think the article as it stands is just fine. We've been talking about thousands and millions of dollars. This is going to be nothing in comparison. And to me, it's just a matter of democracy. The meetings are already open, and if there's nothing to hide, then there's no reason not to record these meetings so that everybody, whether physically unable to get to the meetings, can make the meetings one way or another. So I just think it's a matter of democracy, and we should be open and recorded. I mean, we are in the 21st century now, so I think we can manage recording and posting a session.
Thank you. And do we have voters at this microphone who wish to speak? Looks like we do.
Elena Colby, 5 Fieldstone Drive. I was just wondering, I'm not sure, Attorney Mayor, if you can answer this question for us, but we keep hearing a lot about, town council told us it's a really terrible idea. How many towns, municipalities do you represent that currently do post meetings of their select board, zoning board, or planning board?
I'm trying to remember which ones do and which ones don't. In terms of the ones that I'm primarily responsible for, I don't believe any of them do. But that is not to say that there are those that do not. I know of several that do. So, but personally speaking, in terms of those that I actually represent.
So for your firm?
Oh, excuse me, one. I know of one.
Okay. And could you explain what some of the cons are? We've never received any information. So if there are public meetings and they're being Zoomed currently, and all we have to do is hit record.
Sure, and I can provide the sort of pros and cons. And just to be clear, it's a matter of policy. It's not unlawful, so I'm not going to sit here and say that this proposal is unlawful. But it is ultimately a matter of policy. The pros, as has already been indicated, is access, accessibility, accountability, and transparency. I think that's already been hinted at or expressly said. In terms of the cons, the most notable is liability exposure. What you have in this town, as well as several other communities, are volunteer boards. Sometimes those volunteer boards say some things, or members of those volunteer boards say some things that they wish they could cram back into their mouth. When you record it, and it's human, right? Each one of our boards are represented by people. Every once in a while we all say things that we wish we didn't. The issue with recording that is now that is a public record. It's accessible to plaintiffs' attorneys and other folks that may wish to bring claims against the town. I can say in the land use arena, where I do some private side work, in those communities that have recorded and posted their meetings, I have gone and I've called it, and sometimes I've made transcripts of everything that's said, and sometimes I use those errant phrases against a municipality. And that is ultimately a concern. So if it's adopted, it is, well, folks are going to have to be more careful about what they say. I would also, as I've said before, sometimes when you adopt a policy of recording and posting all the meeting minutes, it does create temptation to be less specific and detailed in your meeting minutes. And that can also be a harm because it can impact accessibility. Because meeting minutes are great when they're detailed, because what you can do is you can look through, you can identify the issue that you're worried about or you're concerned about. You can read that provision without having to watch the entirety of a video. And so if this were adopted, this isn't anything inherent with the article itself, but it is, I would advise against relaxing any practices related to meeting minutes, because it is oftentimes more efficient to go through the meeting minutes. And then if you identify it and see, oh, there's something very interesting there, I can go watch the video or something. But and the last bit here is this is regardless of whether the motion passes or whether the article is voted on as amended, as submitted. I would suggest that there be a retention period. So, the town shall store this for X number of days. I do anticipate, data storage issues. I do have, someone mentioned YouTube. If you're going to do it, the towns I know that use YouTube have problems. YouTube has comments. Sometimes the comments on the videos get really ugly. You can disable them, but, that is sort of a concern, but there's also ensuring that you're able to retain it for the required period. But data storage can be a cost that should be factored into it if you're not going to use a free service like YouTube.
Thank you. Okay, I think the last speaker was there, so anybody wish to speak on this side?
Anthony Foote, 3 Logging Hill Road. Town Council again. I think you did a pretty good job answering actually my question. And I don't know, did you provide your legal recommendation to the town selectmen of whether they should or shouldn't record? I think, we do live stream first. I like it. I wish I could get up and watch the morning select board meeting with a coffee rather than stay up until 8 o'clock at night. But is there your legal recommendation for us to the select board? You just mentioned that it could be a liability. Did you offer that, or is that something you can give us tonight?
I haven't taken a firm recommendation one way or the other because it is a matter of policy. I typically make recommendations as to legality, but ultimately, when it comes to matters of policy, it's a matter of what are the ultimate goals of the client and the identification of the goals of the client. And here, the client is the municipality itself. It's up to the voters to decide, are you committed to transparency to such a degree to post those videos and assume that sort of liability risk? And that's ultimately for the townspeople to do. So I don't have a firm recommendation one way or the other. As I mentioned to Ms. Colby's question, there are several towns that do, there are several towns that don't. They all, I think, function well one way or the other, regardless of whether they've adopted it, but it's ultimately up to the goals of that specific community.
So I would, personally for myself, in reference to Matt's modification, I think it'd be good for us to evaluate the potential costs if we had to litigate a bad comment, because that might be included in the decision process before we say, let's record it.
Thank you. Do we have a speaker at this microphone? Yep.
Yes, Sandy Crystal, 1 Shoreview Drive. I'm against the amendment, and that is because I'm for recording the select board meetings. I do attend all of them. Many years ago, there were things that went on, before this board at a meeting that I couldn't believe that someone could walk in and ask something and totally undo what a whole other group of committee had done. And so I've just tried to make it a point of attending select board meetings so I could hear things. Because there's no recording now, they are streaming it. The select board, at times, the members have not had, have actually gone to the volunteer recordings to check things because they did not remember what went on at the meeting. So there was no recording made, not even a voice recording made that could be referred to, or that was audible that could be referred to, that they ended up using the recording that the volunteers have. So I think really to make sure that the integrity of the minutes reflect what was said, it's incredibly important to record these meetings. So, and by the way, make them available to the general public too. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have a speaker at this microphone? Yes, we do.
Yes, Robert Berry, 19 Laurel Drive. I'd just like to say that I'm in support of the amendment because I do believe in the importance of transparency. I think that hosting these recordings on face value is a good idea, but it occurs to me, and hearing the attorney speak, it occurs to me that this will create a situation where I will have to implicitly opt in to my recording being placed online in order to participate in the town meeting. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. And is there a voter in this mic would like to speak? Yes.
Hi, everyone. Eddie McKenna, 25 Logging Hill. I'd just like to summarize at least my understanding of the case in favor of making an amendment, which is that it would allow further study on whether and to what extent additional costs would be incurred, whether and to what extent additional town liability would be incurred, and as one person put it, and the point is well taken, streaming a meeting doesn't allow the same access to some real-time documents that might have been shared in person. I believe I've got all the cases in favor of that proposed amendment, and they just don't seem like much of anything, that there's an overwhelming interest in this happening. I understand that it would take work to make it happen, and there will be people actually doing that work in some form or fashion, but I'd suggest that it's a wasteful, irresponsible delay to spend any more public meetings that are not being recorded appropriately and publicly. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody wish to speak on this microphone? Yes.
Jennifer McDaniel, 13 Risingwood Drive. Is this meeting being recorded?
Yes, it is.
Is
and
it
live streamed.
And live streamed. So right now, we're recording, and it'll be posted where, on YouTube? Thank you. Just trying to make a point that the town meeting, where we're at right now, is important, obviously, and is being recorded, and everybody here is being recorded, and it will be posted on YouTube. So if it's not safe to have the selectmen meetings on YouTube, why is it okay to have our town meeting on YouTube? I don't know if anybody has an answer.
I'll take that as a rhetorical question.
Okay. And also, I was just looking on our town website, and in regards to where it says a storage manner on our town website, you can go to featured news, and you can watch the 2022 town meeting. So I don't see why we couldn't also store the select board meetings or planning board meetings. Same thing. You could just put it right there on the town website where our town meetings are.
Okay. Thank you. And it looks like we have a speaker at this microphone.
Jack Crisp, 5 Courier Drive. I would just like to speak to what town council said, for whom I have the greatest respect, and I think he'll agree with what I'm about to say. Liability does not arise because there's a recording. liability arises because of what someone says, whether the meeting is being recorded or not. The only effect of the recording is it might make it easier to prove what somebody said. But the liability will be there regardless. So I just don't see that as a reason not to go forward with making our meetings accessible to as many people as possible. Thank you.
Okay. And somebody, yeah, I mean, remember, we're talking about the motion to amend still at this point in time, so
Kevin
focus
McCann.
your comments on the motion to amend. Yep.
Kevin McCann, 5 Pinecrest Drive, so I'm against the motion to amend. One, with the volunteers recording and posting them right now, we already have the liability out there, and it's already been referenced that the select board themselves and many others have gone back and looked at those recordings. Another point I wanted to bring up with some of the select board members with their comments about researching the costs. There was a motion by one of the select board members to record these meetings and to post them, I believe, well over a year ago. It didn't receive a second by anyone else on the board. So it's been brought to them pretty directly in a way that they could have taken the time to research the costs, to understand, you know, their storage capabilities and how we can post them. And so coming tonight and offering this amendment to me is concerning because they've known this is out there. They've known that people would like to have this information available, and they haven't taken action. So kicking the can down the road with this motion, I don't have any confidence that there will be action at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we
Peter,
certainly-
I'd like to call a question on the amendment.
Yeah, well, I'm
I
not
don't
sure
see
that you'll
anyone-
have to, because I think we're about at the end of the list.
But
So,
by doing this, I'm letting folks know if they want to rush to the microphone,
Yeah.
now's the time.
no, I think everybody who has wanted to speak is, oh, someone's going to make a liar out of me.
Hello. Angela Brennan, 169A Bobog Road. I am the person who has brought this forward, this issue of video recording and live streaming, for the past year. I came to the board with a goal of making the select board meetings more accessible and transparent, and so that the people of our community could hold us all accountable for our actions. I have put forth the live streaming to a board that was hesitant to accept it, but thankfully they did. I have repeatedly asked for video recording of our meetings because I believe that you all deserve the opportunity to know what is going on in our select board meetings. It is our collective responsibility to take care of each other. And I believe when you know what is going on, we can better take care of our community. I am opposed to this amendment. I am very surprised to see it even here. Because, as I said, this is something I have brought up to the board multiple times over the last year, and I have faced resistance, but there have been plenty of opportunities for something like this to be brought forth to examine the costs or time that it would take or the technology that it would take to implement video recording. It is true that we currently have the technology to video record. In fact, we have done it with our current technology. You may remember we went through a pandemic where lots of things were live streamed and video recorded, and we still maintain those video recordings to this day so that you may view them at any time. It's simply a continuation of what we have done for now a couple of years. This amendment will kick the can down the road, as many people have stated. I would recommend to this entire community who has shown up here today, thank you for that, to vote down this amendment and bring forth the original article as it was stated so that we can make select board meetings more accessible, more transparent, and you can all hold us accountable. Additionally, I will add that I have discussed the video recording costs with our town manager. There are funds available that could provide for an additional camera setup and TV setup similar to what we currently have that would allow for simultaneous video recording of the select board meetings or planning board meetings if both articles as presented originally shall pass. There are funds available that would cover the costs, so it's important that you know that. If there were additional funds, that would be something we could discuss in the future. But right now, we can afford this, we have the technology, and we have any funding that would be required for storage or otherwise. Thank you. Please vote down this amendment. Thank you.
Okay. So again, just to confirm where we are.
Peter, I didn't get a chance to spoke to my amendment. Everybody, I'm okay with the recordings. I just like to establish a cost, and why my colleague didn't ask a year ago to establish a committee back then to look at these things would have made a lot of sense.
I don't think we need to start rehashing old selectmen's meetings here. I think. Yeah. Okay. You're going to make me wish I accepted Harry's motion. Go ahead, Matt. Finish your comments.
I think you cut me off quick enough there, Peter.
No, I'm sorry. All right. Harry did make the motion to call a question. Normally that would trigger a vote by the meeting as to whether they want to cut off debate and not hear from anybody anymore. We don't have anybody at the mics wishing to speak anymore, so that's telling me that the people of the meeting have spoken. And so we're at a point where we need to take action. So again, the first action we have to take is a vote on the motion to amend. So if you want to amend article to appear as it is up on the screen right now, you will vote yes on the motion. If you do not want to amend Article 11, if you want to return to consideration of Article 11 as it was originally printed, you will vote no. So with that clarification, all those in favor of adopting the amendment, the motion to amend Article 11, please raise your voter cards. Okay, thank you very much. All those opposed to the motion to amend? Okay, the result is pretty clear. The motion to amend fails. So let me just make some notes to myself. So at this point in time, can we just go backwards, Tanya? There we go. So now before us we have Article 11. It's already been moved and seconded. It's a petitioned article as it was printed in the warrant. And so we've talked about it a lot as we've talked about the amendment, but this is the opportunity for anybody who wishes to offer comments about Article 11 as it appears in the warrant to speak. I'll recognize the voter at this microphone.
Jeffrey Knight, 2 Peasley Road. I have a question for council. If we approve this tonight, is it effective immediately?
Yes.
Okay, so if there was a select board meeting tomorrow night, they would have to get what needed to be done to make this happen?
Presumably, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it could be amended to say effective.
Yep, I thought that was the case. So my question is to Harry, I don't think your intention was to cause a hardship for the town, but to get this passed. I guess my suggestion is, would you consider giving the town some period of time to make this happen? Maybe it's 3 months. I don't know what's reasonable.
I'm stunned because Jeff asking me to be reasonable after all the years we've worked together. It's the first I've heard that. I actually think that there are probably 2 amendments, or 1 amendment, 2 statements that would be useful. And Eric, I hear your concern, 2 concerns that you've expressed. One is the implementation, though I will say it really isn't that difficult to push the record button. That said, the other is the record retention issue. And, excuse me, Peter, I do not have a written amendment for you simply because it's come up tonight, but I would suggest after item, oh my, yes, it was, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the actual, a different document, but at the end of the last sentence, following the meeting, I would suggest that we add, or we amend it to say, and retained by the town for 5 years, period. The other amendment I would offer, thanks to my the wisdom of my good friend Jeff, would be that we further amend to say that this would go into effect Eric, 1 month's time? I'm not negotiating with you, I'm saying let's work together here.
I'm not 100% sure what would be needed for implementation, so I might defer.
Push the button. No, I mean record, hit the record button.
Yeah, I would defer to administration on that.
Okay, then I'll make the amendment, make the offer of amendment that this become effective 1 month after the close of town meeting, period. Peter, was I articulate enough for you to get those?
Yep, I got it, and I'll, with the current technology we have, I don't think we're going to be able to display it on the screen, but I will read back to you what I heard you say. You can verify it, and I will treat that as a motion to amend, and then we will deal with that motion to amend if there is a second.
Thank you, Jeff.
The close of the meeting. Okay. What I heard you say is to make a motion to amend Article 11 by replacing the period at the end after the word meetings with a comma, and then add "and retained by the town for 5 years, period." This article to take effect 1 month from the close of this town meeting.
You missed your calling, you should have been a stenographer.
All right, so that I am treating as a second motion to amend. Is there a is there a second to that motion? Okay, do you have his name? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adopt the amendment proposed by Mr. Judd. Does anyone wish to speak on that proposed amendment?
Yes.
Looks like we have a speaker at this microphone, so I'll recognize him.
Don Berube, 135 River Road. I think the amendment's great. It's actually, a couple of my questions got answered. One, which I'm a member of the planning board. I'm glad, I like the amendment to wait a little bit, the 30 days. So over the past year, our planning department's had a lot of staffing issues. One of my questions, I guess, is really for town council. If we don't have the staff or somebody there that knows, how to get the recording stuff to go, does that mean there's no meeting? Because we had that, like, we've been streaming the meetings, and I'm I'm glad that they're streamed, and I think that's a good thing. But like, we had one meeting where there wasn't anybody that could get it going because of our staffing issues.
It would be a violation of the directive. I mean, in terms of whether it would be a constituted meeting, that's a question under 91A, and if it would be a meeting, but I would not put off a meeting because there's now HB 1661 that went into effect this year, which, as you know, being on the planning board, established very hard and fast deadlines by which to act on applications that are before the board. So I would say it's a matter of figuring out the logistics quickly to implement this, because I would not recommend putting off or continuing consideration of land use applications given that statute.
Okay. And, which, like I said, that's my concern, because our whole planning department, we lost all our employees last year. I'm glad we have a couple new employees that seem to be working out well, and hopefully we don't have those issues, but that was one of my concerns with it.
Okay, looks like we have a speaker at this microphone.
Kate S., 8 Parsons Way. I just have a quick question when the next select meeting will be, and if it's before May 1st, will whatever the existing live stream be available, or would we be able to implement this by that meeting? Do you know when the next meeting is?
March 27th is our next meeting.
Okay, so would the live stream still be available for that? It just wouldn't be recorded, or whatever you guys were already doing, would that stand for that meeting? Because that's prior to our new election date, so that's the existing board. So that would be available to the public, yes?
Okay. Right now, we don't plan on changing anything that we're currently doing.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay, it looks like, oops, I was about to say nobody's at a microphone, but it looks like somebody's moving to a mic.
Anthony, 3 Logging Hill Road. I think I heard somebody say it was up to the town management to let us know if they had the staffing. And Dave, have you looked at what it's going to take to manage this, and do you know if you have the personnel to actually do it? I mean, it's on you and Tanya, which I don't know. You say hit a button, but I know she's pretty busy. I just want to make sure you've thought about it.
I have, but not deeply. So we haven't quite figured out, equipment needs. I know we have, as Jeff or someone had said, we bought equipment, but it's very basic during COVID. So we put it all in one rack. Ideally, if this is going to become the norm, we should invest in proper equipment and probably outfit each meeting room. That being said, in the interim, we do have that Frankenstein equipment that we can use. And as far as doing it, we do, when we start the meeting, we do, and we get it going. But again, if this builds to more of a routine and we're doing different boards and committees, I would still want to organize that a little better than it's being done. Maybe train more people to do it, not only employees, but board and committee chairs and vice chairs, so they're not necessarily stuck as Don had talked about. So.
That was going to be directed the question to what Don had said. Do we have an IT specialist at the town that runs the?
No, we don't.
So our network's not managed by anybody, but we might potentially, as we add on additional storage requirements and media devices, employ someone to do that, or?
Right. We do have a company that works on our equipment needs, the firewalls, security, so we could work with them. I don't know if they offer a component of records management, but again, we're looking at that as well for paper copies and electronics management. So there may be an easy way to do that as well and sort them. And I mean, we can get by for now, but again, if this is going to be a normal routine, we need to do some retooling on the process.
So not to bring up the last amendment, but to go back to what Matt said, do you think 30 days is enough for you to get everything together?
No, not the permanent way we should be doing it, but we do, again, have that capability now. We have the machine, we can do it.
What do you as a town manager need in time to make sure this is functional with a reason? Is 30 days reasonable for you to get set up?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's
Okay.
not, and we could do it for the next selectmen's meeting. Again, it's just may not be the final way that we end up doing it. May not be the YouTube platform. There may be a different way. But again, we know how to at least do it the way we've been doing it.
I guess my final question would be, in your mind, what's the associated cost to this change?
I don't know. I'm not sure how much the equipment we had cost. Was it about $12,000, the equipment that we bought. So that's on the tree.
That was for one setup.
That was for one setup. So there's going to be some funds needed, but we'll deal with it.
Okay. Looks like we have a voter at this microphone. Remember, we're speaking on the amendment right now, the amendment to Article 11.
Elena Colby, 5 Fieldstone Drive. I have had the pleasure of recording many select board meetings over the past about 4 months, maybe 5 now. I just want to make a note that if our select board is acting in our best interest and they are making ethical, responsible, and thoughtful decisions, I don't think we need to worry about litigation as the result of recording a meeting. Also, if anyone's on the fence about approving this article, just so you know, since we've been recording them, the total number of views has skyrocketed. We have seen 300, 400 people plus taking advantage of the recordings and really being able to get in touch on their own time about what is going on in their community. So it's been extremely beneficial. So if you are on the fence, just know that. Also know that over the last maybe 5 or 6 board meetings, at least one different member of the select board at each meeting constantly refers to us going back to the tape as a point of reference for something that someone had said or how a vote went down. So it seems that it would not just be beneficial for the people of Bow, but also our elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. And it looks like we have one more voter at this microphone.
Susan Moore, 11 Crockett Drive. I just wanted to make a suggestion to the amendment that I wasn't sure where the 5 years was. Was that a minimum that they should be saved? I mean, I hope it's not cut off at 5, like we throw everything out after 5, because sometimes long-term plans might go longer than 5 years. I mean, I know the cell tower plan last year said 30 years. I'm thinking, so do we need to save that tape for 30 years? So I'm just not sure what that time period should be. But I don't think it should have a cutoff time and everything gets thrown away at a certain time.
All right, nobody over there? Do you wish to speak?
Yes.
On the amendment?
Yes. Kate
Okay.
S., 8 Parsons Way. I would just say I'm not sure that we even need the amendments. This is written where there is wiggle room. If everybody has been voting and attending town meetings, coming to the elections in the last 3 years, you could go back and see how we did it and how much better it is now. I think this is open, that it's going to improve as the tweaks and improvements and we figure out how to do it. But what they're offering already right now, it sounds like so many people are taking advantage of. So why don't we just go forward with that, see what we need. We should probably check with the state if there are retention laws on these types of things, and then amend it next year if we need to say for 5 years, 10 years, et cetera, or we need to improve and get more cameras, so we'd like to allot $10,000 or $1. I think as it stands right now, from what I'm hearing and what I see in our community, it's working. Let's go for it and then tweak as we need to, just like we did with the elections. I'm one of the supervisors, and we had a lot to learn over the last 3 years, and I think we're doing well. That's all.
Thank you. And it appears as if we've run out of people who want to speak. And again, we are talking about the proposed amendment to Article 11. The proposed amendment would add at the end of what you see on the screen, and retained by the town for 5 years, period, this article to take effect 1 month from the close of this town meeting. And so that is the amendment that we are voting on at this point in time. So if everybody's comfortable, if you are in favor of the amendment, you vote yes. If you don't want to see the article amended, you vote no. So all those in favor of the proposed amendment, please raise your voter cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed to the amendment, raise your cards. Okay. The yes votes clearly are in the majority, so the amendment passes. So Article 11 has now been amended, and now we still haven't addressed Article 11. So now we finally have to deal with the vote on Article 11. It has been moved and seconded, it has been amended, and so if anybody truly has something new to say that hasn't been said already, I'll welcome you to the microphone, but please be kind to everybody who's been listening so far. Yes, sir.
Don Berube, 135 River Road. With this, which, like I said, I'm totally in favor of it, but we do need a better setup, and we're gonna need to spend some money. And one of the things, you know, do we want to put some set dollar amounts? We heard from the school's IT guy, you know, $10,000. You know, the setup we have right now is that they wheel from room to room was $12,000. I think that with the IT company we use, you're going to pay for a little bit more secure storage, because I'm pretty sure, you know, if it's our policy to do this, we need to make sure the recordings are kept right, and that you know, they're stored securely. I know, you know, with my business, I pay an IT company and I have my off-site storage, and it costs money. And I'm just, my thought, and really is to the select board now, is should we be putting $10,000 or $15,000 on this that the taxpayers pay for? I mean, is that, anybody, any suggestions on that? Or, I mean, you know, do we have where we can pull some of this money out? I heard that from Ms. Brennan, that we can afford to do this. I'm just kind of curious where we pull $10,000 or $15,000 from.
And I'll let other members of the board or administration speak to whether there are funds available and line items available in the operating budget. I will say you cannot amend this article to raise or to seek an appropriation for it. DRA has more recently taken the position that that would be impermissible under RSA Chapter 32. So this article could not be amended to now make an appropriation.
Okay. What's that? No, I meant to, you know, approve an amount to spend.
Yeah.
So we're not taking it out of where we're spending money, already planning to spend money elsewhere.
On behalf of the board, and probably the board member that has the best experience with our budget, given the numbers we've heard tonight, we'll figure that out. We've figured out bigger numbers that have popped up as surprise billing. There's a little bit of ARPA money left that we have some flexibility at the board level. If we get the direction from the town, we'll figure it out for both the planning board and the select board.
Okay. And to add, which I really think there should be a more permanent setups in each room. So, you know, when I have to be shown how to get this thing going, I'm not, you know, I watch him plug in the laptop and go, and it, you know, it is definitely cumbersome. So to make that easier for a volunteer to run it would be great.
Thank you. So Article 11 has been amended. It's been amended to include the 5-year retention requirement and the 1-month effective date, and we are discussing. So what is on the floor now is action on Article 11 as amended. So at this time, we'll take a vote on Article 11 as amended. All those in favor of Article 11 as amended, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. Put them down. All those opposed, please raise your cards. Okay, the yes votes have it. The article passes as amended. And no one is kicking me from the side or poking me, so I think I got it right, right? Good. Next, excuse me. The next article on the warrant, it was Article 12. It's also a petition article relative to live streaming and video recording of planning board meetings. This is, as a petition article, is there a motion to adopt this article?
Peter Harry Judd, 25 Stack Drive.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Okay. All right. I think, and Elena, okay. And Elena Colby seconded it. So, and as typical, I recognize the petitioner to present the article, and I understand that's going to be you, Harry.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Harry.
They hit my mailbox again.
I'm going to go home and go to bed. I only have one eye open. Good night, everyone.
Frankly, it's the same discussion that we had earlier. It's just a different body, and I think, I mean, I can speak to it more eloquently and in greater length, but I think we had a rather robust discussion already about the concept of recording and posting those recordings of meetings. So I will stop there and give other folks a chance to speak, except you.
Okay.
What about the amendments, Harry?
Thank you for your brevity. That's a good question.
Mr. Judd, what about the amendments? Do you think you'd want to request the same amendments that we saw in the previous petition article?
Thank you, Chris. Don, if I ask for the amendment, will you not speak? Yeah. Same retention, Peter, same retention period of 5 years. What do you want, Don?
30 days to get it going, so 30 days.
30 days. Thank you. Or 1 month. Same amendment, thank you.
Okay. I certainly will. Okay, that's all right. Okay, so I am going to treat that as a motion to amend by the very first speaker on the article. The motion to amend the article would be similar to what we did with Article 11, to add at the end of the article the words "and retained by the town for 5 years, period, this article to take effect 1 month from the close of the meeting." I think that will work, right? Let me see, these is available public not later than 5 days and retained by the town for 5 years. I think that makes sense. Okay. Did I catch it right, Gary? Okay. So we have a motion to amend, and is there a second to that motion? Okay, and Jeff Knight seconded it. So first order of business is to act on the motion to amend, Article 12. Anyone wish to speak to the motion to amend? I think we're all spoke out on this issue, right? Great. Okay. On the motion to amend, all those in favor of the motion to amend, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. All those opposed, please raise your cards. Okay, the yes votes have it, so the motion to amend passes. And which moves us right on to then consideration of Article 12 as amended. Anybody wish to speak further on Article 12 as amended? Hearing and seeing nobody rushing to the microphones, we can then take a vote. All those in favor of Article 12 as amended, please raise your cards. Thank you very much. And all those opposed, please raise your cards. Okay, the yes votes have it. And the article passes. Writing notes to myself is the only way I can keep track of what I'm doing up here, so that's why sometimes I pause, because I'm catching up with what we've done. All right, our last formal article for tonight, Article 13, is an article relative, another petitioned article relative to creating a committee relative to cell tower coordination. This is another petitioned article, so first I will look for a motion to adopt the article. I have a motion by Jeff Knight and a second by, okay. I was going to get caught on that. You know, I don't know everybody's names. I'm sorry, Mark. Okay, motion's been made and seconded, and I will again invite a representative of the petitioners to present this. And I'm guessing,
It's not
no,
me.
it's not you.
No.
Okay. Oh, it's you. Okay.
Can I just make a quick, it was recommended, I asked that you make an announcement that we're going to collect the cards at the end that aren't used.
Oh. Okay, that was Jen McNain, who's one of our supervisors, since we try to save the town money and sometimes we use voter cards. And as you're leaving the meeting, please remember to just to turn your cards in so we can save you in future town budgets. It also helps us keep track of voters and what's going on. Okay, so our petitioner is over at that microphone. So again, please identify yourself for the audience and present your article.
Dee Trybig, 15 Branch Londonderry Turnpike East. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for all coming out tonight and participating in our town meeting. My name is Dee Trybig, and many of you know me from my work at many town organizations, committees, and elected positions over the many years. I'm here to introduce this petition warrant article for future telecommunications development in our beautiful town of Bow that I have called home for over 30 years. We all know that cell phone coverage in Bow leaves much to be desired. Why is cell phone coverage important? Well, when speaking to fellow residents, safety for emergency purposes usually comes out first. Convenience of being able to place calls, hands-free, of course, in vehicles. This usually comes second. And although more reasons were expressed, the reality is more and more people are canceling landline-based phones and only have a cell phone as a communication method in their homes for all purposes and needs. Why a town plan? Well, the objective of requesting a technology-based wireless communication plan for our town is to have the town select board create a plan that provides for the maximum amount of cellular coverage throughout the town of Bow, requiring the minimum number of towers strategically placed to achieve this goal. Why would we want more towers in Bow? Well, that's the only way that we're going to achieve 95% or more coverage. The advantages of a plan is we could potentially diminish the amount of towers needed, and we could strategically place them and control how the plan goes through the town. Starting in 2021 and approved in 2022, the townspeople voted for a site to be reviewed and considered for a cell tower to better our coverage. I appreciate and recognize the volunteers of the Citizen Forum Committee who worked hard to bring this forward. At the 2022 town meeting, a site for the tower was shown, and an RFP process to put the tower out to bid was included in the plan, and the public was to be kept informed of the progress. The tower was recently approved by appointed and elected officials to be placed on the town land off Branch Londonderry Turnpike East and on the road of which I live, to be transparent. This 190-foot approved tower will be AT&T funded, and hopefully coverage will also promise Verizon coverage within 2 years. And it's going to stand in the middle of a residential community and protrude 100 feet above the tree line without camouflage. A recent poll in the Bow Times showed a majority of the responders stated they did not want a cell tower of 190 feet, and our town ordinances state that no tower should be above 90 feet without a hardship waiver. But many ordinances were waived, and it is approved to be built and the lease signed. There was not an RFP process. We were told at a selectmen's meeting that the town attorney said we don't need one. And despite the statements at the former town meeting, only Rising Tide Towers was contacted, and we went forward from there. I'm not here to talk necessarily about this particular tower's approval, only to show that this petition warrant article will hopefully create a better process for the future. I have heard too many people think this one tower will solve the cellular reception problems of Bow. It will not. It will definitely cover some major safety area concerns, the elementary and middle schools, and a guarantee to at least reach the high school. Rising Tide Towers publicly stated on record at a planning board meeting that this is limited coverage and other towers would need to be built to solve Bow's cell problems. We need more towers. Having an RF engineer consulted separately and working with possibly a committee or and our leaders would create a plan. We have a town master plan, a town center master plan, and other town plans for a reason. Many towns such as Stratford, Henniker, and Sutton, to name a few, are currently implementing committees and a master plan to achieve this desired goal to get full cell coverage in their town. Looking at the Stratford town plan, I greatly appreciated how the coordination of sites to get approval through the zoning and planning boards worked, and they compensated for things like having a lower tower near the Lakeview, having a higher tower where it wasn't so intrusive on some of the residential areas. It was a good plan, and it's being implemented now. I've learned much more than I ever expected to know about cell coverage, And I've learned that there are telecommunication tower site developers, and then there are actual carrier companies themselves that get the towers built. If a town completes a solid plan and has approved sites for a carrier to come with little stress, cost, and effort, it's much easier to get the companies like AT&T and Verizon to fund a tower build. A chosen committee working with elected officials could create this plan and locate possible sites to attract other cell tower builders. Resistance is found when there is no approved site, is what I keep hearing from the carriers and developers. I imagine a question I would ask if I was in your position would be, how much would it cost to implement such a plan? Well, the answer can be $0 or up to $10,000, based upon the research and consulting some experts in the field. I do know of one such tower developer that is interested in working with Bo and who would consider funding an entire site plan to achieve the 95% or higher goal. That is one option the town could consider. In conclusion, I ask for your vote for this warrant article to bring this forward, to make a plan that would be customized for our town of Bow and achieve a full cellular coverage for all of our citizens, not just the limited one tower that is currently approved. And I would hope we could do this as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Does anyone wish to be heard on Article 13? Looks like we might have a voter at that microphone. I'll recognize him.
Yeah, David Farr, Heidi Lane. I just want to point out, I have a question. I don't know if the petitioners can answer or if it's a question for the board, but do I understand correctly that either the petitioners or the neighbors to the existing tower filed suit against the town to prevent the tower? Then I'll ask the board. I was wondering, I was interested if the petitioners, you said you didn't, but I don't know if the other petitioners.
Yes, there was an appeal filed, I believe, in Merrimack County Superior Court, and our council received a copy of it yesterday.
And do we have an estimate of how long that will stall the process today?
Difficult to say. It depends upon the court's docket. They're supposed to expedite land use appeals.
Okay. So I would just, I know that we're not trying to make this about the existing cell phone tower, but the few people I spoke to had no understanding that this is directly tied to it. And in my opinion, is a little bit of a smokescreen. So just to give you guys some history, it wasn't 2 years ago, it was like 20 years ago that somebody tried to get a cell phone tower here and it was denied. My understanding from the board members I've talked to is that it is the #1 complaint in this town. They want cell tower coverage. So in 2021, the select board asked permission to negotiate a contract, and the town was pretty clear. You didn't give us enough information. They felt like you're pulling the wool over our eyes. Tell us more. So a group of citizens, along with members of the select board, I think, Bruce, you were part of that group, right? So Bruce, a member of the select board, brought his expertise, and we spent a year gathering information. We did information sessions. We invited everybody in here. They showed pictures. Was it perfect information? Absolutely not, because what everybody told us was, if the town doesn't have permission to negotiate, we're not going to waste our time investing all this money into figuring out how to put a cell phone tower up. There's this talk of this like secrecy and this RFA thing. The fact is, when a town negotiates a contract, it stays private. I think the lawyers had more questions today than any other town meeting I've been to, so I won't ask you again, but my guess is that towns are not supposed to talk about contracts that they're negotiating. It's just a bad negotiating tactic. So site work was done, measurements were taken, the FAA, the state communications worked all of that out, and we brought that to the planning board, or to the zoning board, which passed it to the planning board. The planning board, God bless Don, I think is his name, spent 3 or 4 meetings, 3 or 4 hour sessions, was there till 10:30, 11 at night, and the arguments that were made by the abutters were cell phone towers cause cancer, they ruin your sex drive, it'll kill the environment. The only reason that we have one tower is because of this profit-hungry company. It's ugly, it won't give everyone coverage, it won't cover the school, which it will. It won't have multiple carriers, which it will, and it's noisy, which it's not. But it passed. Didn't pass easily. I've never seen a group of people ruminate over a decision longer. It was mind-numbing, but I think they made the right decision for our town, and the abutters still sued. And they've stopped us from building a cell phone tower, and one of the arguments that was made is, well, the school has the safety and security coverage it has. Dean Cascadden will tell you the only reason they invested all that money is because the town wouldn't put up a cell phone tower. So we've already, like, what they're using for arguments are things because we don't have a cell phone tower. So anyway, I guess my point is, just know that by voting for this, what you're doing is setting a precedent that when this committee does all this work that we've already done and comes and says, hey, we want to put up 5 little towers, that's 5 groups of abutters that will then go sue and stop us in our tracks again and say, not in my backyard. So I urge you to vote no and work with the town and continue to try to get this tower put up, because it's been 20 years. We need a cell phone tower.
Anyone else to wish? Yes, you,
Hi.
voter at this microphone. Yes.
Jeffrey Knight, 2 Peasley Road. So committees. The select board has committees now. I don't know how many there are. Do you guys know? I know there's a CIP committee. I know there's a building committee. How many committees does the select board have?
8? Yes.
8.
Yeah.
Okay. And these committees were put together by the select board over time. They're advisory committees to the select board. None of them have ever been voted to be required. I'm not sure what would happen if some committee was voted to be required. I guess I have a question for the town lawyer. What happens if that committee sets up and goes for 2 or 3 years and then there's no committee? What happens?
It exists on paper, but it just doesn't function.
Okay.
That's the case with a lot of committees that are set up for established purposes in a lot of communities.
Okay. To me, this sets a precedent that we don't have. I think cell tower coverage is important to the town, but I would hate to vote on something like this that would require a committee. I think, and I guess I asked the select board, does the select board think it's a good idea to have a cell phone committee?
Just speaking for myself, since I've been a selectman and just finishing up 3 years, I think there's only the requests that have come in for committees. I think there's only one that didn't get approved. It was for Exit 1. Get a committee to look at that because we try to incorporate it into our business development committee. But if, you know, if there's public interest in establishing a committee to further look at cell towers going forward, I mean, as a selectman, I'd put it on the meeting for the next agenda, and they can come in and ask to form a committee, because I think that's the normal way it goes. I know I missed, or I participated in one meeting by phone recently, because I got stuck out of state, but I don't recall anyone coming in and asking to request a cell tower, you know, committee going forward. Usually, in my experience, and Chris and Matt and Mike have been on the board longer than me, but I don't typically see the select board denying a request for citizens to want to volunteer more work for the town. We need more volunteers, so.
Yep. I guess I would just use that as a point of reference. I just hate to see us vote on something that requires a committee. I think it's a good idea. I think you should go ask the select board to become a committee and do your research and give information to the select board. They're advisory committees. I think they're all good, and they're good ideas, and this is a good one. But what I don't like is it being required and voted on. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Looks like we have one more voter over on this side. Yes, sir.
Kevin McCann, 32 Branch, Londonderry Turnpike East. I take offense at a previous speaker that said this was a smokescreen. It's not. What's done is done already. I happen to be one of the abutters. I don't see anything wrong with requiring a committee, like town council said. If it doesn't happen, there's not a problem with it. What happened here is that we had a group of people that worked to get a cell tower put in. That was not a committee formed in conjunction with the select board, but just a select board member. If we have a committee with, and a committee doesn't have to be all like-minded people. It can be people that want more towers, people that want less towers, people like myself that agree that we need a tower, just not a 190-foot tall one, 300 feet from somebody's property. I think I agree that this article should pass and that it was well presented as is. Thank you.
Okay. I was about to say it. Look, oh, you'd like to speak, sir? Sure.
Yeah. Jotham Spreeman, 38 Birchdale Road. I like the concept of the 95% coverage. Does anybody know how much the single tower plan we have now would cover, like of the town? Anybody have that info? Dave?
I don't think we have the, as far as percentage of coverage in town for that tower. But as you know, if you live in Bow, there's a lot of portions of Bow are covered by other towers from surrounding towns. So I don't know if we have a complete coverage map to give you a percentage on that.
Fair enough. Just curious. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, the voter at this microphone.
A point of order, was the article moved and seconded?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I must have missed that.
Okay, and it looks like we have one more voter here.
Yes, Susan Moore, 11 Crockett Drive. This has been a long process of many discussions over many town meetings. I know in 2021, the topic was first introduced, but there was not enough information. And after that meeting, I went back, I heard that it had to be on a hill. So I looked up all the hills in Bow, and there were 6 or 7. So there were 6 or 7 other sites that could have been high enough for the cell tower. We heard from that the committee had made some views from Bobog Road with a drone. However, if anybody's ever driven on Bobog Road, it's just surrounded by trees, so you would not really see much past the trees if you're standing on Bobog Road. However, as an abutter, and as many butters and many people around Bow, we would see that tower. And we were promised a balloon test. It was canceled because of weather. Okay. But then if you cancel something, you postpone it to another date. That was not done. So a group of people got their own balloon, put it up to 190 feet to see what it looked like. And this group of people took pictures from all around town to see what a 190-foot, 19-story metal monstrosity would look like in the middle of a rural residential area. Pretty bad, all right? So we have pictures of that. And so this is not just some little thing in the neighborhood and just little butters complaining. This is for the town of Bow. And let's face it, the Rising Tide Towers came in and said, we need AT&T coverage in this one little area, so Bow, you're it. So we both said, okay, you're it. So we've got AT&T. We've not been verified that we have these
I've been very lax in sort of a conversation, but this is not an article about the cell tower that's been approved already.
It's about the formation of a committee.
It's the formation of the committee. So if you wish to speak to the formation of the committee, that's fine. But it's not productive to rehash the arguments about the other tower.
Okay, I just had to contradict some of the comments that were made by the second speaker over there.
Yeah,
So
well, I should have shut him off too.
I'll address the warrant article. This other committee that would like to be formed, or that should be formed, is very important because it will do some research that hadn't been done at first. I called the town of Sutton and see what they did. And they had a committee, they had 3 towers, they had a request for proposals, which we didn't have. They had a radio frequency engineer, which we did not have. So this new committee would address all of these factors. When you're doing research, you need to explore all different options. Call other towns, find out what other towns do. One single tower that's too tall is not going to solve the problem for all of Bow. That's a given. If we had 3 towers, like most towns have 2 or 3, maybe even 4 towers, like Sutton has 3, that you can space them around the bow, and that way they can all be 90 feet, meeting our zoning ordinance, which has been bypassed by this 19-story metal monstrosity. So it's not even meeting ordinance. That was bypassed by the zoning board of appeals, passed at the planning board, passed the selectmen. I know Bruce has offered to have it on his property. Yay, okay, 7 times.
Please, we're not rehashing the old
good.
other tower,
Okay,
okay?
so-
If you want to talk about the article to establish a committee, let's focus,
Yep.
and it isn't just for you, it's for every speaker.
No, it's
We're
for
talking
every-
about the
okay.
committee only,
So I
okay?
encourage people to vote for this article because it's very important to have a unbiased opinion of what people are researching.
Great, thank you. And speakers over here wish to speak about the article?
Brian Murphy, 15 Bond Road. Thank you, moderator. You're right, this is an article about forming a committee. The name of the committee doesn't matter. It's just forming a committee. And there was a previous speaker who said we already have a process for forming a committee. So I'm going to vote no for this, not because I'm necessarily against whatever committee, doesn't matter what it is. I'm voting no for it because we have a process. We don't want to overcomplicate things, in my opinion. Let's use the process we have to form a committee instead of creating a new process for forming a committee. So again, I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anybody over here, and usually I don't let people speak twice until everybody else has spoken. Everybody else has spoken. You had your turn, Dee. It's late. People are tired. Keep it short, please.
Oh, this is early for us. Come on, Peter.
Yeah.
This is easy. So I am open to amending the article to get rid of the committee and just create a cell tower coordination plan, which is really the only goal I'm trying to achieve to make sure that we can get 95% or above coverage in Bow. The question was raised, what does this current tower that's approved, and for the record, I'm not in a butter. I was told that it would go to, during one of the meetings, the tower company said it would go to possibly the top of Page Road and go more into some of the Concord area, maybe down to Allen Road. They weren't sure. They did our engineer, but it's definitely not covering a large portion because, as they said during the many presentations, the goal was to cover the schools for emergency purposes. That was their key objective, and that's what they had planned for. So I just want to make sure that townspeople knew that there is still much of Bow that's not going to be covered, and we do need a plan to get the whole town covered because it shouldn't just be one area. It should be the whole town. We all want it.
Thank you. I don't see any other folks wishing to speak on this article. So we have Article 13 before us relative to,
Peter, if I could make just a quick comment.
Sure.
A few minutes ago, Chairman Marshall offered to bring this as a motion to the next board meeting. And I just wanted to say, for anybody who is inclined to vote no, that I will second that motion so that we'll get a vote at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we're voting on Article 13 as it appears in the warrant.
Can I make a comment?
Excuse me? Yes?
I haven't spoken.
Well, where were you hiding? I didn't see you over there. But you're welcome to speak, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to answer, a question about the poor coverage from this 190-foot tower.
We're not talking about the tower, okay? No more comments about the tower. We're talking about establishing a committee.
Coverage.
Period.
1 to 2 bars. I wouldn't even use that to advertise my...
Sir, you're out of order, okay? We're not talking about the tower. Okay. Article 13, voting to require the selectmen to establish a committee to create a cell tower coordination plan. We'll take a vote on that article now. All those in favor of the article, please raise your voter cards. Okay, thank you very much. Put them down. All those against the article, please raise your cards. All right. In this case, the noes outnumber the yes votes, so the Article 13 fails. Cards. All right, and the last article on the warrant is transact any other business. Anybody have any other business that they want to bring before the meeting? If not, be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Everybody raise your cards and Great. Motion passes. Drive home safely. Thank you for a good meeting.